Alright, so today we're going to be going over how to make custom stinger transitions, which are these little animations that a lot of big streamers use to hide their transitions between two different scenes. I'm going to be showing how to make it with a complicated method, a simpler method, and I'm going to show you guys how to implement it into OBS. And then we're going to go over and talk some stuff about it. So there's going to be chapters. You can use those if you want to go to a specific part. Otherwise, let's get right into it. The first method, this is the complicated method. How we're going to do this is by using Blender. Now, if you've never used Blender before, I am going to not be explaining literally everything. I'm going to do my best to kind of guide through as much as I can, but you should, I'm going to assume that everyone just has at least a little bit of Blender experience. So we're going to go into Blender, and we're going to hit General, which is going to give us this, the default thing, and we're just going to delete everything in the scene. Then we need to change a few of our settings to actually make it possible for Blender to do what we need it to do. So we're going to go to Render, and I'm going to change my render engine to Eevee, just so things go a little bit quicker. I think Eevee is the default one, but I have my default one set to cycles because I use cycles occasionally, but that's besides the point. Anyway, so render engine, we probably want to go with Eevee. You can do cycles if you want, but I recommend just doing Eevee. And then we need to go down to film. Why do we need to go down to film? Well, when we go to our rendered view here, alright, you can see everything's a solid, but what film allows us to do is change the world into a transparent background. So this allows us to, everything in the back, it can be basically invisible, essentially. Then we need to go to output and change a few things here. So this is your file location. You can change that if you want. I just leave it as /temp, but you should change it to wherever you want the finished video to be saved to. You want to change your file format. Mine is already like this because I have default settings saved. I think by default it's like PNG or something. Set this to FFmpeg video. Then go to encoding, change the container to WebM, and the video codec to WebM/VP9. And then we'll get another option under our file format. In the color we have now black and white, RGB, and RGBA. And we want to go to RGBA because that is alpha, or like A stands for the alpha channel, aka transparency, whatever. So now all our settings should be in place. We're ready to animate something. So we got the camera doing its thing in a place. I'm gonna set the camera to a different place. So the way you can kind of snap your viewing to an axis like this is Alt. And then drag your middle mouse button and hit Control-Alt-0 to change the camera view to wherever you are at this current moment. And then you can just hit 0 normally. This is numpad 0, by the way. Just a normal 0 to go back to your camera view. So now let's go ahead and add a cube, just because we're going to try to make this super simple. I'm going to move this out of view of the camera. We'll move it over here, and we'll scale it down a little bit. Now I'm going to do a thing with the cube and its material. So we're going to select this material here. And I'm going to change the material a bit. So I'm going to go up to this little grid thing. And we're going to go into Shader Editor. Normally I do this with a split screen, but for simplicity, I'm going to show it like this. So what we want to do is remove So we can delete this principal BSDF thing. We can hit Shift A, and we're gonna search for an emission, if I could spell properly, an emission 1. And then we want to drag this to surface. We could leave it white. You can change this to whatever color you want. And then we are going to go back to our 3D viewport. Now, why do we do this? Well, the reason why we do this is because if you do not give the color some emission, it'll just look super dark and bad, and you have to do things with lights, which just doesn't end up looking super great. So it's really nice to use an emission property. So now we're just ready to do like a little quick animation. So let's go ahead and quickly do that. So we want to at least have a part where this block covers the entirety of the screen. So I'm gonna save the location, rotation, and scale. We'll move the block like over here. We'll do like a thing where it's kind of being thrown. So we'll go ahead like 10 frames. We'll move it to here. We'll move it, go ahead another like a few frames. Move it to here, like so. So what does that look like? Something like that. It's not amazing. It's not horrible. And then what we'll do is we'll have it kind of rotate and scale up like this. So boom. It's not great, but you get the idea. And then we will have it stay like that for like a few moments. We'll go like this. We'll have it scaled down, and we'll have it like rotate a little bit. Scale down up here. Boom, so it goes something like that. It is very crude, but you can spend as much time animating it as you want. You know, let's go ahead and just make it a little bit nicer. Go ahead and add a little bit of rotation here. Oh, that was terrible. Let's do it like that. I'm messing everything up. There we go. So it adds a little bit more movement, and then we will have it go down here. Oop. I clicked every axis. That was the wrong one. Oh my days. Okay, there we go. So then it goes down. So, and I'm gonna do a little thing. I'm gonna change the interpolation mode here. So you can right click on keyframes, go to interpolation mode, and you can change the way that it interpolates things. I'm gonna change it to back. I'm gonna go into easing and ease in. There. So it gives me a little bit of a different falling animation. And there we go. So we're gonna change the end now to 180, and we can hit Control F12 to now begin the rendering process. So now that that's finished rendering, what we need to do is implement it into OBS. So we want to go to this thing that says scene transitions. You'll have a few like base ones here. You won't have any of these ones, but you'll have like cut, fade, luma wipe ones. But we're going to go over here to these three dots, or not these three dots. We're going to go to the plus rather, and we're going to add a stinger. Well, you can name this whatever. I'll name it block because that is the kind of one that I made. And then we can get our video file here. You can see all the different ones that I have. Oops. But we can open that. And there we go. We should be able to do a preview transition. And you can see that this transitions like when we don't want it to transition. We have to change the transition point here. So we'll change this to, I don't know, 100 ms later. Preview. Okay, we're gonna need to substantially increase that. 500 maybe. Nope, still not it. There we go. So we can change the transition point to, I've had to fine tune this. But just find wherever is a good transition point, then you can preview the transition. You can see that the block comes up and it covers the screen. like that. There you go. We can just click OK there. And now it is selected, so I got blocked here. Ignore my chat module. It's okay, I didn't mean to put it there. And now it's gone. Now it's just gone. Okay, it's actually behind my OBS. Whatever, that's fine for now. But you can see now when I change it, we got the block transition that comes up and covers the screen. So there we go. That's how to do that with the more complicated method Blender. Now let's look into the less complicated method here. Alright, so the second way I would recommend that you make these stinger transitions is by using Photopea, which is basically Photoshop, except you can use it on your browser. It's on the web, and it is free. So first thing we want to do is click New Project. I'm just going to choose a random one of these. This one looks pretty cool. And I'm just going to add a new layer. So we come up here to Layer, New Layer. Then I'm gonna remove everything else. Okay, so now how do we, this is an image editing software at the end of the day, pretty much. So how do we actually animate things with it? Well, there is a built-in method, but what we need to do that is do _a underscore, and then whatever we want to name the layer. So we'll just do 1. So the reason you can rename by double clicking here, by the way, you can rename the layer. The reason we do that is just so Photopea knows that we want these layers to be read as like an animation, and it will then play them one after another. So we're going to start with a blank screen. I'm going to come over here, Control-C, Control-V. We can copy it, and we'll change this one to 2. Now, you can probably be a lot more artistic than I can. I am not a very artsy person. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a super simple transition with a black ball here. So we're going to have it like this on the second layer. And I'm just going to keep doing Control-V to paste that that blank layer. So if so this second layer, if I get rid of it and I hide both of these ones, you're going to see that this layer is just a blank one. And I'm going to enlarge this ball slightly as it flies. We're going to do essentially the same thing that we did, oopsie daisies, with the cube as a ball. And I'm just not really artistic enough to do it any other way. So we'll do it like that. Now it gets to about this point. I'm going to put the space there because it will bother me otherwise. So it gets to this point, it can start covering the screen. There we go. On the sixth one, and the whole screen is now covered. Now I'm gonna remove all of the previous stuff, and then we're gonna uncover the screen in this next one. Oh, I forgot to rename this layer. So 7. And the 8th layer, I'm gonna unsay that as well, and we're gonna just add it so it starts falling down to the bottom. You can add as many frames as you want. You can animate it however you want, whatever you want. I'm just not quite good enough at drawing to really do anything that's more interesting than this. Well, I mean, I'm a lot better at animating, and it's not like my Blender one was exactly inspired, work of art. But there we go. So then on the 11th one, we'll just have it go back to a normal blank screen. So if you can see, as I show the layers again, you can kind of see the animation kind of play out. This one doesn't work so well. But there we go. Anyway, now that we have that, what we want to do is come up here and go to File, export as, and we're going to choose export as a GIF or GIF, however you want to say it. And we're going to see that it, this is super annoying, so I'm going to change it to 10% speed. But it's going to play on the right here. And you can see it coming up, and it goes through each of our frames from bottom to top. You can do reverse frames, so it will go from top to bottom. If you prefer to have the animation go that way, if it's more readable for you. Can zoom out maybe a little bit so we can see the entire animation. But I'm going to speed this up to like 150 times speed maybe, something like that. Okay, maybe that's a little bit too fast. We'll stick to maybe 100 speed. There we go. And I'm gonna just ball of blackness. And I'm gonna save it. Then now that that's saved, I can come back over to this, and basically we do the exact same thing as before. We click on the plus, stinger, black ball of doom, boom. We browse our files. This is my test one from earlier, just to make sure this method still actually works. And then we have our ball of blackness GIF. We're gonna open that, and when we preview, you can see it comes up and it does its thing. And it only plays once, which is the nice thing. We don't need to worry about it being a GIF because it only actually plays once here. And then we just fiddle around with our milliseconds once again to make, or to just try to get it to transition on the right frame. That was pretty close. This one's kind of hard because I only gave it literally one frame. So that's probably as good as we're gonna get. It's not exactly perfect. You can get it to be perfect. Actually, it looks pretty good. Okay, well, that's because it was going to a black screen. You do get the idea, though. You can kind of see it cut out with the PNG, which is quite funny. It is rather difficult to see, but you do get the idea. You can make it a lot smoother if you do more different ones. Like I did very few frames. This is like an 11 frame thing. But you could make this a lot smoother, say, because instead of these two, you could add another frame in here, so like 2.5, and you could have like something like this, and you could have like a much more smooth animation. But, you know, for the sake of doing it quickly and showing it, I didn't choose to do that. So yeah, there we go. Those are the two ways that I would recommend doing it. I do recommend doing the Blender method. I think Blender is very daunting at first, especially if you haven't used Blender at all. Even Blender, to people that have kind of used Blender a little bit, can be very, very daunting and overwhelming at first. But I think the Blender method is extremely good. What you can also do, by the way, with these, so as you can see, this is my stream. But if I go to one of the cue screens, right, okay, I'm gonna remove that because that's not actually the greatest. But I also have these little pop-ups. So I have like confetti that can come up, or I have various promotional little animations for my different things that I've created. That's the chat box that's not active right now. But stuff like this. And you can actually do this as well with the things that I showed you. So you can add a media source. We'll just name it media source for the sake of simplicity. But if we add our ball of blackness GIF here, and we can have this loop or not. Generally, I prefer them to not loop. But then we can go like that, and it plays. So it's not covering the entire screen for whatever reason. But you can see whenever I unhide this, we get the thing that plays. So you don't exclusively have to use these things for doing stinger transitions. You can do little animations like I had as well, which is just really nice. It's a really nice versatile thing. This is why I recommend doing it with Blender, because it will save you, at the end of the day, it will save you a lot of time. You could see how much faster like Blender would be and how much smoother. I mean, let's just compare. I spent like not a lot of time doing either one of these, but look how much smoother the Blender transition is compared to the one that I made in Photopea. You know, just with that, you know, very small amount of time that I spent on both of them. So I think Blender is the better option, but for people that like don't want to learn a lot of Blender and want to be more artsy with it, then definitely Photopea is probably the way to go. Or a different way, if you have a way of animating in like 2D and drawing each frame, or making it a little bit easier to draw each frame, then that could also be a thing that you do, as long as the background is transparent. If you mash all of it together, you can add it as a stinger transition, and it works well. But these are the two ways that I recommend. They're totally free. Blender is free. Photopea is free. Super easy. OBS is obviously free. So there's absolutely no paywall here. It's just however you want to do it. Anyway,